we'll wait and see what happens. But in other news,
Yeah.
Kevin Feige hopefully could be taking the reins. And essentially, like, I don't really know how much of a fan he is of Star Wars. And even if he is, there are so many people that have been hired for Star Wars projects from Disney, and
Mm-hmm.
they're fans.
Yeah.
Who isn't really a Star Wars fan at the end of the day? There's a lot of people. But it's like, does he understand the characters? And it's one thing to kind of know the lore, which is important, but it's another thing to really understand, like, how would these certain characters respond if they were put into certain situations that you write them into. And that's what makes it feel authentic. So it's like, I don't know, man. We'll just see.
He's a fan. I was kind of thinking that too when I saw that news earlier. So I was about to take a nap, and Diamond Fig sent me the tweet about that, and I was like, "Oh shit, let me see what's going on." And I watched the interview that he did like 5 years ago. Star Wars actually interviewed him before Infinity War, and he was talking about how he grew up watching Star Wars. That he was 10 years old when he saw Return of the Jedi. He had all the toys when he was younger. So Star Wars was kind of his first love, which I was like, all right, that's cool. That's good to hear. And then one thing he said that I loved is when he first started working for Marvel, he knew the characters somewhat, but he didn't know them in depth. So he used source material, which were the comics, and he read the comics. And as he was reading comics, he was like, oh, this is a great arc for this character. I'm going to use this, that we're going to just use it in the comics because it's there in source material. He said that twice. When KK goes, oh, there is no source material, but we have hundreds of books, which is wild. So if he were to take over Star Wars and use the source materials from the books, that would be like a really, really good sign. I would want that, not necessarily him turning Star Wars into Marvel. Like Marvel's Marvel, Star Wars is Star Wars. I don't want Star Wars to be like Marvel where everything connects necessarily. But if he goes by the lore that we have and uses that as reference, I'll be a happy camper.
Yeah,
me too.
I think the biggest thing with Kevin Feige is, Tony, you were talking about that interview with him and how much he loves Star Wars. There's another interview that I think it was IGN did with KK last year at Celebration, where where it's the whole thing of Kevin was supposed to do that that movie, that production or whatever he did, and then he didn't. And everybody was like, well, where'd the Kevin Feige thing go? It got scrapped. And then Kathleen Kennedy was like, oh, it was never going to happen anyway. It was the news outlets who were putting that out. And that was never from Disney. It was never going to happen, actually. So let's just stop talking about it because it was never going to happen. So to hear this today is kind of another layer to that of, oh, he doesn't want just, he doesn't want to just do a project. He's got his eyes on taking over the whole thing. And like, it's my time to shine. Hello. If you're on Twitter seeing what they're posting, the community notes are insane on My Time to Shine Hello. Like everything that they've been posting, they get community notes of like, My Time to Shine Hello is an actual leaker,
fake,
and it's all fake news, and the community notes are just going nuts on My Time to Shine Hello. So like, does it hold any water? I would say, from my perspective, maybe just because there was all that stuff of him doing a project, and that was around the time Black Widow was coming out for the MCU, of like, hey, he's going to do a movie. And he talked about it on the red carpets and stuff. And they were like, oh, there was one interview where they were like, Kevin, we're so excited for your project. And he was like, I'm so excited that I'm not going to talk about it. I want to talk about Black Widow, but I love Star Wars and I'm so excited for this. And I clipped it with KK's right after, and it's, oh yeah, it was never going to happen. It doesn't make any sense. Like, why would you think that?
As usual.
Sorry, yeah.